Hi, it's Nick Capozzi, and this is Razzball Radio on the Fantasy Sports Network. I'm joined today by Seth Klein. You can follow him on Twitter at Seth the DA Sportsman. And Seth handles the injury reports for us on Wednesday, as well as the start sit column on Saturday at Razzball.com. So this is a guy you want to know and you want to follow him on Twitter. Now, Seth and I are going over some sleepers. Right now, we're talking quarterbacks. At the top of your list today, Seth, you've got Jay Cutler. Now, he threw for over 2,500 yards last year, plus 19 touchdowns in only 11 games. I'm kind of shocked that this guy's the 15th quarterback being taken, only because of the offense there. Now, Chicago's never really had a good offense, at least since like the 60s. But you've arguably got the best wide receiver tandem in football. Tell me, why is this guy a sleeper for you?
I mean, I really like him where he's getting taken in drafts this year. He's behind guys like Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, good quarterbacks. But if you can wait a little longer for a guy like Cutler, you're really going to get value there. He didn't really get a full chance to play in that offense last year with new coach Mark Trestman, and they call him the quarterback whisperer for a reason.
No doubt.
This guy made a star out of Josh McCown last year, who's since signed a huge contract with Tampa Bay. You're right. Cutler and the Bears offense has never exploded, but they did very well last year. And I think a full season with Cutler at quarterback, he can put up big numbers. Like you mentioned, those yards and touchdowns. I mean, if he played 16 games, he passed for almost 3,900 yards and 28 touchdowns. I really like the schedule the Bears have towards the end of the season, starting from week 12. And that's when, you're talking about some teams are already in the playoffs in certain fantasy leagues. Some are trying to get there. You're talking about the Bears playing Tampa Bay, Dallas, Detroit twice, and Minnesota twice. And Minnesota allowed the second most passing yards per game last year, and Dallas was third most. So those are great opportunities there to, have a quarterback in the crunch time. And Detroit also allowed the 10th most passing yards. And Dallas and also Tampa, who they play there, and Minnesota were in the bottom 5 in total touchdowns allowed through the air all season. So the guy you get right now, Cutler is going, he's a 15th quarterback taken right now, according to ADP. I mean, I think he's a steal right there. Guys aren't taking him. I mean, people are talking about him, but he's still not getting any higher. So he's a guy I really like.
Absolutely. I like the analysis, especially with the schedule. Of course, Dallas really decimated by injuries on defense. Another guy you have that I'm surprised is the 16th quarterback being taken right now. That is Big Ben Roethlisberger of the Pittsburgh Steelers, because this guy was top 10 in NFL passing yards 3 of the last 5 years, and the years he didn't make the top 10s because he was injured.
Yeah, he missed some time with injuries, but like you said, when he does play, he's put up big numbers. He'll have his number one target healthy this year, and that's tight end Heath Miller. They've played almost entirely their career together. They had 1 year in the beginning where one was drafted a year before the other. But he missed one game last year, Miller, but he's coming in full strength. With Heath Miller in the lineup, Ben Roethlisberger averages 20 points, fantasy points per game. That's in 119 games. Without Miller, which is 24 games, he only averages 14.9. So you're talking about 5 points there just with having his tight end in the lineup. That's going to be huge. They have Antonio Brown coming back, who was second in the league in yards last year. They got young guys, Marcus Wheaton, Martavis Bryant. They brought in Lance Moore. He's a great possession guy.
And they've upgraded their offensive line as well. So Pittsburgh, I think, is going to surprise a lot of teams this year. Pittsburgh typically has a bum year every few years, but I like Tomlin as a head coach. I could see a bounce back there. Love Roethlisberger, especially that ADP. Rather have him. You told me earlier you would rather wait on Matt Ryan at 69th overall and grab Big Ben, correct?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't think there's a point in reaching for a guy like Matt Ryan, and I think he's going about the 5th or 6th round right now. Wait on Ben Roethlisberger. Grab another receiver, grab another running back in those earlier rounds, and wait on a guy like Big Ben. I mean, they could put up very similar numbers.
Absolutely. Another guy, and this one is the most shocking to me, and I think he is going to wind up on a lot of my teams. Number 26 overall is Carson Palmer of the Cardinals. Here's why I think so. Offensive line hugely upgraded, especially with Jonathan Cooper coming back, their first-round pick from last year. You've also got another year of maturation for Michael Floyd as well as Andre Ellington. I think there's a chance. I'm not crazy. I think there's a chance that Carson Palmer could be a top 10 player this year.
Top 10 QB, maybe.
Excuse me,
Yeah,
top 10 QB.
right.
I apologize.
No, I could see that. I mean, he had a very underrated season last year. 10th in pass attempts, 8th in yards, but he was still sacked the 8th most times. So you're talking about, like you said, a better offensive line. They brought in Jared Valdir. It's going to keep him upright on his feet. Another year of Michael Floyd, like you said. Andre Ellington, who's a guy that a lot of people like as a pass catching back. I think Carson Palmer would be a great addition to a fantasy team as a second QB. I wouldn't take him as your first probably, but he's a great guy. If you get maybe a guy you're gambling on a little bit earlier, take him as a second QB. Save those earlier picks for some guys, receivers and running backs and tight ends, and you got a solid guy that's proven over the years he can produce.
I am a gambling man, so I got a feeling Palmer will be on a lot of my teams. Okay, he is Seth the Sports Guy on Twitter. Of course, he handles the injury report on Wednesdays as well as the starts at column on Saturdays at Razzball.com. Hi, it's Nick Capozzi, and this is Razzball Radio on the Fantasy Sports Network, and I'm joined right now by Seth Klein, who does the injury reports on Wednesday and the start sits on Saturday during football season at Razzball.com. So you want to give this guy a follow on Twitter. You can follow him at Seth the DA Sportsman. Seth, we are talking sleepers. We are talking wide receivers. Terrence Williams, currently the 34th wide receiver on the board, which is shocking to me for one simple reason. Dallas's defense is going to be atrocious. They're going to play a lot of catch-up.
Yeah, they are. They're really bad, and that's one of the reasons why they were such a high-scoring team last year. It's not necessarily how good their offense is that they're on the field a lot. I do like Williams a lot this year. He was a rookie last year and put up good numbers. Second year in the offense, new offensive coordinator. His 16.7 yards per catch was fifth among all wide receivers last year.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
As a rookie.
As a rookie, that's true. No more Miles Austin
He's
to
out.
worry about there. Jason Witten getting a little older. He's still Romo's guy, but getting a little older. And Romo was third in NFL in pass attempts last season. Like you said, they're on the field a lot. This is a guy that is going to get you a lot of garbage points in fantasy, which in fantasy we love. We love those Cecil Shorts type guys that fourth quarter get you 80 yards and win your week for you.
Absolutely. Next guy on the list here is Kelvin Benjamin of Carolina, the rookie wide receiver, went in the first round, 46th wide receiver being taken right now. This guy's interesting to me because he is built like a beast. This guy is massive. The question with him is, can he run routes at the NFL level? But Cam's got to throw to somebody.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, huge guy, 83-inch wingspan. The guy can reach out and get anything. Yeah, he's should be a basketball player or something. Yeah. But great athletic specimen. A little bit raw, I'd say. Obviously, a lot of those numbers go back to having a Heisman-winning quarterback in college. But Cam Newton has to throw to somebody. Right now, he's got Jericho Cotchery, Jason Navon, Tyquan Underwood. Greg Olson is really the only guy right there that I trust. And Benjamin's going to get his looks. Because he's so big, he's going to get those red zone targets. I wouldn't be surprised to see 8, 9, 10 touchdowns of this guy, at the end of the season. May not get the volume of, catches and yards, but the scores are going to be there. And I'd rather wait for him, where he's going as the 46th wide receiver taken than maybe reach for a guy like Dwayne Bowe, who we know kind of is going to be a little inefficient in that check down offense that Alex Smith runs in Kansas City.
Let's not even talk about Dwayne Bowe. He is just off the list. Yeah, you make a good argument, especially too. Carolina has been grounding well, I guess you can't say grounding and pounding. Ground and pounding? I don't know, whatever. I think they are going to have a lot of opportunities in the red zone, and you make a great argument, especially with that wingspan. Last guy we've got for sleepers here, and this one blows my mind. I was shocked when I saw this guy's ADP this year. 48th wide receiver off the board, DeAndre Hopkins, who looked phenomenal at some points last year. So obviously this is tied to the quarterback situation, but if Andre Johnson gets a ticket out of town, which I don't think is likely, but this guy's a legit talent.
Yeah, I think that DeAndre Hopkins is a future number one. Whether Andre Johnson stays there remains to be seen. Obviously, if he went, he'd immediately be a top 20 receiver, Hopkins. Bill O'Brien, a run-first coach, but they'll be throwing a lot once they get in the red zone. The running game, though, should open up better looks for Hopkins. You got Fitzpatrick at QB right now, who is, an upgrade over Matt Schaub and Case Keenum. And he was second, Hopkins, in receiving yards for rookies last year, fourth in receptions, and he only had one drop in 53 catchable passes.
Come on.
Second in the NFL among all receivers as a rookie, one drop. So this is a guy that holds onto the ball when he gets it. I really like this guy right now. He's the 48th wide receiver taken, and I would take him ahead of guys like rookies like Sammy Watkins, Mike Evans, who are unproven and we don't know about them. Get DeAndre Hopkins on your team. He's a steal right now.
I'm with you. He is at Seth, the DA Sportsman. Of course, he writes the injury columns on Wednesday and the start sits on Saturday. It's worth a follow. Hi, it's Nick Capozzi. This is Razzball Radio on the Fantasy Sports Network, and I'm joined right now by Seth, the Sportsman. That's DA Sportsman. You can follow him on Twitter, and you want to, because not only does Seth do the injury reports on Wednesday at Razzball.com during football season, he also does start sits on Saturday. Very plugged-in guy. You want to follow him. We are talking sleepers, specifically running backs right now. Being taken 15th, the 15th running back being taken overall right now is CJ Spiller. You know what? He's a guy that I thought last year had a chance to really be a top 5 running back. Didn't happen. Lots of reasons why. There's talk he might get 20 touches per game. I'm a little bit nervous with Bryce Brown, but I'm going to cross my fingers on that because I have him in a ton of dynasties. Tell me why he is good value.
Like you mentioned, 20 touches per game. We never know where to read into the, during OTAs and training camp and all that. But even if it's 16, 17, 18 touches a game, that would be a huge increase over last year. At 20 touches, he'd increase his touches by over 100 touches from last year. And obviously, those are a lot of fantasy points you're going to get. E.J. Manuel was hurt last year, underperformed, but a lot of that affected C.J. You're talking about having to play with Jeff Toole and Thaddeus Lewis. I mean, that's really going to close your running holes when you have quarterbacks that no one's afraid of.
And another thing you got to consider there too, Seth, is that Sammy Watkins is going to take the top off the defense, and even if they're using him a lot along the line, still going to create some lanes, I think, for CJ.
I agree. And another year of Robert Woods. They brought in Mike Williams. I think the Bills are a much improved team, and I think it's going to benefit Spiller. And like you said, he disappointed a lot of people last year, and that's causing him to drop further in the draft. I think he's a steal as a 15th running back, high upside guy. I mean, if he doesn't work out, it's not going to kill you right there. But if he does and he returns to that top 5, 6 form, I mean, you got yourself a nice run to the Fantasy League Championship, I think.
Exactly. Could be a great return on investment. Next guy on your list is the 21st running back being taken right now, Rashad Jennings. A little buzz about him because there's talk that he might become the feature back in New York. I'm just going to throw this out here before you give me your analysis on Jennings. If you're a fan of Razzball, you know that I have an infatuation with David Wilson. He's not getting drafted right now, and if he is, it's in the last round. If there's any chance he can maintain his health, he's a guy that no one's talking about. That's a really deep sleeper. But back to Jennings right now.
Yeah, I like Jennings. I think, like you said, he could be the bell cow guy in New York. Tom Coughlin really wants running backs to be able to block for Eli Manning. That's one of the reasons why Wilson fell out of favor before he got hurt last year. And he'll throw him in there on third downs every time. So you're talking about a guy that could be a 3-down back, catches the ball well, 47 targets last year, caught 36 balls for 292 yards. I do like Wilson as a late-round guy. I think he has that potential, like you said. But for now, I'd say he's behind Jennings. You got Peyton Hillis, rookie Andre Williams, Michael Cox. Not a great names there. I think off the bat, Jennings has a great chance to run away with the job, and I prefer him over a guy like Bishop Sankey, who is relatively unproven. I'd rather get a guy like Jennings, who at least we know right now what he can do.
Good call. I like that. Great analysis. Danny Woodhead, this is a guy that kind of scares me more because of size, but they've used him so creatively in San Diego, and I think people are going to be surprised when they find out where he actually finished among running backs last year.
Yeah, he finished 12th among running backs.
Shocking.
Yeah, and the guy only gets about 7 or 8 carries a game, but He mixes in the carries, he gets some goal line touches, and of course, a big receiving back. Stays healthy. Has only missed one game in the last 3 years. So that's a guy, like you said, small, but he's proven to be durable. So it's a guy that you're not worried about getting injured and having to stash on your bench. Ryan Matthews still that number one guy, but we really saw a great season from him last year. But it's his first in a while. He stayed healthy, which we're not sure he can. And if Ryan Matthews gets hurt again, Danny Woodhead is going to be that guy. They brought in Donald Brown. Not too worried about him. I think he's third string right now on that depth chart. But I love the offense. They're going to go with a run game, short passes to Woodhead. He's an explosive guy that can be very exciting and get you points.
Good stuff. He is Seth Klein. He does the injury reports on Wednesday, start sits on Saturday. You want to follow this guy on Twitter at Razzball.com at Seth that's DA Sportsman. Hey, it's Nick Capozzi from Razzball Radio on the Fantasy Sports Network, and I'm joined right now by Seth Klein, who does the injury reports on Wednesdays at Razzball.com, as well as the start sits on Saturday. So you want to follow this guy at Seth DA Sportsman. Seth, we are talking sleepers, we are talking tight ends, and I think we're going to have a bit of a brawl here. Well, maybe not you and I, but head football editor Jay Wrong and you might, because you've got Greg Olson as a sleeper. He's got him at number 2 overall. Talk to me. Where's he going? What's the story?
Well, it is a little iffy. He's the 8th tight end being taken right now. So sleeper, maybe not according to where he's being taken, but according to ADP, I'd rather take him ahead of a guy like Vernon Davis, who right now is holding it. Was probably going to hold out. He got crouched back. A lot of questions. We talked about Kelvin Benjamin on another show, and I really like Olson because, like him, he's Cam Newton's only really legitimate target. 304 targets, 4th best among tight ends since 2011 is Greg Olson. Quietly, only behind Jimmy Graham, Tony Gonzalez, Jason Witten. I mean, this guy gets the looks. Touchdowns aren't always there, but I think now with no Steve Smith, he's going to get more touchdowns than he did last year. He had 6 last year. Can stretch the field. Big playability. Had 12 catches of 20-plus yards last year. He can run after the catch. I really like Greg Olson. Like you said, not a typical sleeper because he is a top tight end. But if you can wait and not take a guy like Witten or a guy like Vernon Davis, I'm going after a guy like Greg Olson. I think he could be a wide receiver / tight end if you got a flex spot like that in your league.
No, you're making a great argument. I love it. Next up, Garrett Graham of the Texans, 26 tight end off the board. What is the story in Texas?
I like Graham this year. I think he'll split looks with Ryan Griffin, but Owen Daniels gone. He was the guy for many years. Graham's the go-to guy now. He's got the experience. I think he'll be the first look at the main tight end for them. Ryan Fitzpatrick loves going to his tight ends, and so does Coach Bill O'Brien. Last year, Fitzpatrick in Tennessee, Delaney Walker came out of nowhere. With Fitzpatrick, Walker had 2 more catches and 2 more targets per game than with Jake Locker. So there's upside there with the QB. And I also like O'Brien. Again, like I said, loves going to tight ends. His last year as offensive coordinator in New England, tight ends produced 46% of the total receptions for that New England team. Look for a lot of volume, some red zone targets. He's a guy right now that's not even getting drafted in 12-team leagues. He's like off the board ADP-wise. Wait for him as a backup, I think, even a starter if you want to grab some wide receivers and running backs a little bit earlier.
All right, speaking off the board, the last sleeper tight end you've got today is Tim Wright of the Buccos. It's interesting because they did draft Austin Seferian-Jackson, who people are drooling over. So make your argument for Tim Wright.
Yeah. I like Seferian-Jenkins, but, rookie tight ends.
Sorry, I got the name wrong. My bad. Seferian-Jenkins.
All right.
I just call him ASJ.
There you go. ASJ. I like him, but rookie tight ends, not a great track record in the NFL. Another reason why I'm not in love with Eric Ebron this year. I like Tim Wright. Was very, very underrated last year, quietly. And a lot of people liked him last year because he had that wide receiver / tight end eligibility. But he was third among all rookies in receptions and 5th in receiving yards. And those are great numbers for and playing under Glennon. So McCown, a little more experience, going to throw the ball more. They have a decent offense this year. I really like Wright, Graham as a guy that's not even on the board. People aren't looking at. Take him in the late rounds as a fallback, as a backup, even a guy you can put in your flex spot and save your earlier picks on a guy that you may want to start ahead of them.
Love it. Top quality analysis here with Seth Klein at Seth the. That's DA Sportsman. You want to follow him because not only does he cover injury reports on Wednesday, he also does start sits on Saturday at Razzball.com.